I can only hope that when I speak, I appear to you like a column of meat and breathing, exalting and decomposing, having woken to necessity. I speak though no one, as far as I can tell, can fulfill that necessity. I could empty my lungs here and now. All I can hope for is finding before us the tender interplay of our receptivities. Sometimes I realize the possibility that the sentence I have spoken has never been said before on earth. I think to myself, what could possibly have happened in the world before for this sentence to have been spoken? And after a while, my theory begins to sound convincing. I don't even speak much, and yet there I was, stringing sentences together with all the required and beloved elements, required because they're beloved, beloved because they're required, required because they're beloved, beloved because they're required, and then I'd spoken a sentence that had never been spoken before on earth. And I felt altered, along with the world, though I would be kidding if I were to say that it was by very much at all. Because things encounter my body and things are expelled from my body, doesn't that mean that everything collides on my body's surface? If so, my clothing is witness to many of these encounters because I, a human clothes hanger, I'm always in a state of accepting and expending, such as almost the entirety of what I've accomplished to this day. Considering the gaps between our atoms and the vigor of my encounters, it surprises me that the bodies I meet and draw against me, or myself into, it surprises me that these bodies do not pass entirely through me. I managed to return home in one piece through something I can only name kindness. And this kindness is one reason why I feel so fortunate to share your company tonight. I'm always seeking outside correspondences to my ideal behavior. An image that is kept, I suppose, in my soul. If this image of ideal behavior exists in my soul, then my soul must be credited for the invention of the immaculate wardrobe in white. I designed the immaculately white wardrobe to, one, say no to the world and its society. And 2, to express my affection for that same world and its society. The nature of these encounters is almost legible through whatever condition my clothing is in afterward. This legibility speaks much about my society. A speck of anything, if fallen on an item within my immaculately white wardrobe, could misrepresent me or represent me all too well. When I'm set on my ideal desire, extending from my ideal behavior, conversing with my sensitivities and expressing them with the joy I've been known to inhabit, a clarity arises, and I am certain that I must risk the integrity of my garments to approach it and to win its attention. The hunch that tells me I found my ideal engagement creates an incredible warmth throughout my body. In all honesty, it is a sensation unlike anything I've ever contemplated.
Don't suppress a sneeze.
Sometimes I tell myself, I am turning into my father. But then I realize what an improvement that would be. When his influence is an angle of light, when my father's influence is an angle of light, if his influence were an angle of light, if his influence, when his influence is if his influence were an angle of light, a shadow of my eyelashes, nose, and lips would be cast across my face. I understand this to mean that I've not quite turned my back to him, but yet I've not quite turned to face him either. I understand this to mean he might be too far from me. My roaming alone in the world has sometimes brought me woe, like a dull ache in my center. Though maybe I should rename it a vigilance. If I'm to be a groom to watchfulness, I can never be a virgin to anger. My roaming is also the cause of my wrecks and the cause of the spirit that carries me miles past them. I'm of an understanding that it is the sensation of a goodness that might continue without me. So only recently I decided that I would like living to the age of an old man. My reason for living is that I need to maximize time to work on my poems and the plea for my soul. Two activities which have begun to look all too similar. The difficulty is, I'm still tied to the practices that ruin poets' bodies. Sometimes all I know is the fact that poets by nature always destroy their bodies. I figure that, I figure that the poets reason that because they are continually leaving the earth, They have no need for their physicality, aside from the traditional gratifications. I picture my body risen quite nicely in health to write those poems, to plead for my soul, and also fight the enemies of poetry who are quite content to allow poets to destroy themselves. I define these enemies as the rest of society. Yet immediately, I suspect that this image of myself in health is little more than poetic reverie. And what is poetic reverie but the cause of my original trouble and self-destructing? Anyway, what does a light year really resemble? To measure myself, must I turn back upon myself? My face looks toward the past, while my toes continue pointing, not quite ahead, but up. If I could suggest a form of life for some people I know, I would point to the facsimile fly adhered within urinals. The facsimile fly, my friends, has been given the responsibility to prevent human spillage. Men, men direct their stream upon it according to a supposed hierarchy of living things. The fly, through its steadfastness, dismantles that hierarchy, and this quality would need to be emphasized in my suggestion of a form of life for some people I know. As a quick aside, that was the beginning of my Christology. Embarrassment. Embarrassment for one's corpse is perfectly natural. I consider the trouble that mine causes, the tax it owes, how it doesn't get the idea it's unwelcome, especially when alive by all appearances and stepping into your home. And then the alternative, being brought back to life under changes, making of an upright body a response that cannot be foreseen. Like everyone, I am arriving and departing at once. My home steps out of the house when I do and stays within me. Through these motions, I discover just where it is that I sweat. And if I may confess, there's not 1 inch on me that does not slicken when I am turned toward you. All my exertion must make me appear like a blooming or a little explosion within my human totality. If the look on your faces gives any indication. Aren't I desiring myself out of a body until I am all absence? When arriving and departing at once, the days last equally long. Sunday starts again toward a Monday with promise that Tuesday broadens for Wednesday's realizations that allow Thursday to sway to a restful Friday for the reflections that occupy a Saturday, wherein I am stilled and all days are the same distance from me. I am not existing. I am being existed. And thank you, friends.